So welcome guys to another video, and as I said in the last video, that in this video we are going to design basically the login and registration aspect of this application, as well as the login and registration actions. Alright, so but basically what I want to do is, since doing that in a single video is going to be extremely long, I have decided to split that into three different parts. So for this particular part, what we're going to be focusing on would be setting up our login and registration forms, setting up our routes for our login and registration, and designing our forms. So the first action we are going to take here is we'll move into our components, and we're going to create two folders. And the first folder here is going to be called the dashboard. Yep. And we're going to have another folder here too, and this folder is going to be called home. And we are going to have a component here, and this component is going to be called home.js. And we're going to have another component here too, and this component is going to be called dashboard.js. Okay. And in our layout folder, we're going to have two folders. One is going to be called home, and the second folder is going to be called dashboard. So once we have succeeded in doing that, I want to get to my browser and open React Material UI. So React Material UI, yes. So you can see here that there are a lot of components for us to use for our front end. So what I'm going to do now is head back here, and in our layout, in our home, we're going to have header.js, a component here called header.js, and we are also going to have footer.js. Okay, and this is for our layout, right? Okay, so in our component, in our home component, we are going to have login.js, and we are also going to have register.js. So the first thing we are going to do is to head into the home.js. We're going to create a functional component here. So I'm going to do rc please IntelliSense. All right, now that's cool. RCF to create a functional component for me. And now this has scaffolded the functional component. So what I'm going to do now is to just have a little text here. Let's just have a little text here that says hello world for now. And in this home component, we are going to need a couple of things. So I'm going to import them. So first of all, we are going to need to import from React Router DOM the switch and the route. So we're going to import, the switch, and we're also going to import the route too. And this is not spelled correctly, from React Router DOM. And now we just need to save this, and we're going to head back into our app.js. And in our app.js, we're going to get rid of this text, and right here we are going to import a couple of things to help us set up our routing. And the first of them is going to be the browser router, which is very important if we are going to work with React Router. We need the switch, which should help us maintain the display of one component instead of showing all the components. All right, I'm going to show one component at a time. And then we need the route too, and this is going to come from React Router DOM. Yep, React Router DOM. And we are also going to import our home component. So our home component, and this is going to come from component/home. And now we can wrap our whole application inside the browser router. All right, so that should enable us to be able to use the switch and every other thing that comes with React Router DOM. And now that we have done this, we will need to use the switch so that we can be able to display one component at a time. Because when we are done with login and registration and we start working with the dashboard, we are also going to be adding a private route. We're going to create a custom component that is called private route that is going to redirect if a token does not exist. If a token exists, it's going to redirect us to login, else redirect us to the dashboard. and that private route will be responsible for handling route to the dashboard component from the app. All right, so here, right here in our switch component, we are going to have a couple of routes, and this route that we are talking about is going to be responsible for handling our initial route. So basically, the first route that the application is going to load, once you just put, let's say, the name of the application or the domain name or something like that. And usually you want to use the exact path, because if you don't, every other subchild route that comes after that route will be displayed when you call this. All right, when you call the other component, like let's say /home/user or something like that, it's going to display them. So for us to only display just this route, we're going to use the exact with the path and then the name of the component. So the name of the component is actually our home component. Okay, all right, once that is done, something I also like to do is to also give our index route a second route that also looks very similar to the initial route. So what I'm going to do here now is to do that here too. So I'm going to say the path is going to be /home. Our component is still going to be displaying home. Okay, so now once I save that and I get to my browser, everything is fine. If I do /home, still gonna show us hello world. Okay guys, so now that we have succeeded in doing this, we're going to go back to, not to the home component, rather to our layout. And in our home, we're going to go into our header. And in our header component, here we are going to be using React Material UI. Material UI styling perfectly works with functional components, but does not work with class-based components. So what I often do is, whenever I need to use a material component in a class-based component, what I do is I just basically don't do with their styling. I just get the component. It has the core fundamentals of material design. You're going to see what I mean. But for this, since this is going to be a functional component, we are going to just steal every single thing. So what I'm going to need here is the app bar. So I'm going to go to component and app bar. Okay, app bar. Yep, and this is what I need, the app bar. This one is really basic. Okay, so I'm going to just copy this now. And oh, sorry guys. Let me just copy this from here. There should be a copy. I copy the source. Yeah. So now I just paste that. And now this is our header. And if I save this, we are going to change the name of this to header. So export default function header, and we will need to import this in our home.js component. So let's quickly import that. So we're going to say import header from, so from layout home / header. Having imported that, we are going to need to call this component here. All right, and what I want to do is I want to pass the props here down here. So basically the reason why we are passing these props is because in app.js, this home component has this path as one of its props and has this path as one of its props. So, and we will need that to direct to our, or basically help us in routing to our components. So I'm going to pass this header layout and I'll save that. Yes, so we have this. You can see how this looks. There's login, there's news, there's sidebar, but we don't need this, so we're going to get rid of that. So let's go into our header and let's just get rid of this. We don't need this. And here, login, we are going to copy this and let me see, and call this register. And yes, we have login, we have register. We don't need this too, so we are going to get rid of the menu icon button. So let's get rid of this. Okay, so yep, so or no, let's get that back in here, and let's just say, let's call this a h3 or something, not you, a h3 tag. Oh my goodness, and we're just going to call this tech builds, right? Isn't that cool? And yep. Oh no, this is expanding this whole thing. Let's get rid of this, and instead what we are going to do now is let's a bold tag, and let's make this a link. Okay, so we want this to be a link, and yep, that has imported link for us from Material UI core, but that is not actually what we need. We want to import this from our React router DOM. So we're going to import this from React router DOM, the link, and the second is going to be the nav link. Yeah, I know there's an error, so let's fix that. So for our link, we want to go to the index here, and we are going to call that tech builds. Tech builds, save that, and yep, here we are, taking us to the index or the root path. And for our buttons, we are also going to do the same too. We're going to wrap them around nav link. So nav link, and the link, or where is actually going to be redirecting to for our login, or basically for our login, is going to be to home. So let's cut this and place this inside of here. And for our register nav link, for our register, so let me get this, cut this to, for our register, we are going to redirect to /home/register. So let's see about that. So if I click on login, right, /home, now if I click on register, yep, you can see that the URL is changing, but we have not added it, but we have not assigned any component to that route. So what I'm going to do now is, let me just remove this inherited color from the button. Let's remove this too. Now if we save this, you can see we have something dark, and let's make this to be capital letter register so that it looks a bit cleaner. So what I'm going to do here is just remove this color inherits. I save that, and let's also get rid of this classes.menu button too, and save that. So now we have our login and we have our register. So the next thing we want to do is we want to basically assign routes to our login and our register. And for us to do that, we would have to go into our home component. And before we do that, before we go into our home component, let's go to the login and register component in our home. Our dashboard, okay, yep, in our home. So let's go into our login component. And our login and register components are going to be class-based components, basically. So we're going to go RCC, and this is going to generate a class-based component for us. And register RCC2, and this should generate a class component for us too. So let's just save that here, but let's just add a bold text and say this is the login component. And for register, we are going to add a bold text here that says this is the register component. Save that. So we are going to get into home component, and in our home component we want to import the login and the register. So import login from, we want to import that from components. Sorry, we are missing the part. So components, yes, and we are going to go /home, right? Hope I'm correct. Yep, /login. So we are also going to import the register component too. So we're going to import from import register from, we're going to go components. Am I making a mistake? Oh my word, am I making a mistake? Where am I missing that? Oh, sorry, no wonder. So import register from component slash slash home, and then slash register. Remember, this home component has a property which we are passing from this home component down to the header component, and the property here is, you can see one of the properties is the route. If I came here and did console.log, should I do that? Let me do that here. So if I did console.log props, and we are having an error here because, okay, let's get this out of the return statement. All right, let's place that inside this component. So console.log, and I just went to the here, and if I go to inspect this and I go to console, you're going to see it's returning an object for us, and you can see part of the props is, you can see the location slash home, you can see the match and so many other things. All right, so let's just get rid of this. So what I like to do now is really simple. I am going to get rid of this, and now I'm going to target our route to target our component. So we're going to have route, and we have exact path. Of course, for our first component, we want to basically say exact, because if we don't do that, anytime we call anything that calls slash home and slash something, anytime we say slash home slash register, if we don't initialize the basically the first component to be exact, it's going to show the first component and that component. So we're going to say our exact path. Our path is going to be the props we are passing, which is basically the path, which is going to get the path. So we're going to say props.match. Remember, we saw the match. Let me just log that to the console again so that you see what I am saying. So we'll say props.match, and we want to match a path. So that path is going to be the slash home, which is the index path, and the component we are targeting would be our login component, and that should be just about that. And the second is going to be register, and for this we're not going to use exact, we're just going to use the path because this is not going to be our root component. And we're going to use backtick because we want to use this here. So we're going to say props.path or props.match.path, and we want to go slash register. Okay, and the component here is going to be our register component. All right, so we just save that, and that's a mistake. It's supposed to be match. And what I want to do in our login component is, this is a login component register, the register component home. Yes, so now that looks good. So if we save this, and we are actually missing out on something, is that we need to wrap this around the switch so that you can be able to choose one of the components at a time. So let's wrap this around switch. All right, and let's wrap this around switch. Okay, so now that we have wrapped this around the switch, so everything aside from the header would then be controlled. So we have, it says type error cannot read property path of undefined. Why can you not read property path of undefined? Oh, so sorry guys, I saw the problem. The match, not matches. So yep, now if I go to register, this is a register component. If I go to login, this is a login component. All right, so now that we have successfully achieved this, it's time to style our component. So what I'm going to do now is, of course, we are going with class-based components here. So we're going to start with our login component. So we are going to get rid of this and get into this. And I like to look for text fields. All right, we're not going to make use of their own styles, but we'll just get the basic material. So let's look at this. So let's look at this. So let's just import text fields. And this is going to come from material UI. And let's pick one of these, but let's wrap this inside of a form. Now let's pick this. So inside here, we're going to wrap this around the form and close the form tag. save that. We're gonna get rid of this handle change, get rid of these values, get rid of these classes, and that should just be about that. Classes is not defined. Oh, sorry, because we basically don't need their classes. So let's see how that looks. So let's go to the login component, and yep, it has the really cool material UI design. So what I want to do here is we have a form and we have this, and the marginal is normal. So let's just go back to this documentation, and let me go down a bit. So I like this one, which spreads across the whole, really broad. Yep. All right, so this is the component that I need, the text field I need basically. So if we add this here, and let's see exactly how it looks. All right, this goes way over the border, but I need something that's taking the whole width. And I like this helper text too. All right, but we are not going to use that here. So what I'm going to do now is to add some more styling here. So I'm going to call this, give this a property of max width. So remember, in React we don't style this way. You can't put it slash. We always kind of like do them together. So I'm going to give this 1000. So let's see how that looks. Yep, it looks pretty nice. So let's get rid of you here. Let me remove this property because we don't need this. And our placeholder is going to be enter your email. And I'll copy this. And our placeholder here would be enter your password. And for this text field, we want to give it a type. And the type here is going to be password. Type here is going to be password. And for our labels, I want our label here should be user or email, and our label here should be password. So the last thing that we would need is a button. So let's just close this. So let's go back to buttons here. So now click here, and what we need is to import this. Alright, so we need to import the buttons, which I'm sure we did not do here. I want to say I'm sure we did, but really I saw that we did not. I switched, I'm sure we did not. So we would need a button with a primary color, since that is the color that we are working with, or basically the default color that it is. So we're going to call this login, and we are going to get rid of this class name, classes.button. We don't need that. Yeah, so I'm always forgetting that I need to kind of break this. So let's call the break, no, break, and okay, and the self-enclosing break tag. And yeah, we have our button here that says login. So for this button, we could just do some inline styling here and just give it a width of around 1000, and save that. Just get right up here h1 tag. Sorry, so we need a h1 tag here. Let's call this login here and save that, and yep, login here. So the button, this, that's cool. So if our login component looks this way, so time to do some styling in our register component. So for our register components, we wouldn't do much. Just come here and we want to copy almost everything in this return statement. except that we will need more fields in our register component. So almost everything in the return statement, and as well as our imports too. So the text field and the button. So let's scroll up, Ctrl V, and change this to register here. Register here. All right, but we will need more fields than this. And the fields we will need, let's get back to our API, and let's go to our model of our user model to see we need first name, email, password, and last name. So we can just copy this and paste this here. Get down a bit, paste that here too. So we'll have first name, last name, email, and password. So this is going to be our label here. It's going to be first name, enter your first name. And this would be last name, enter your last name too. Last name, enter your last name. And this would be email, enter your email, password, enter your password. So now I save that. And yep, we have first name, last name, email, password. Go to login, email, password. Go to register, first name, last name, email, password. And let's just change this login on the text to register. Here, we'll change that to register. Alright guys, so that is just about that for styling our components. In the next video, we're going to head back into writing, first of all, our registration.